All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about Keith Thurman, Terence Crawford, and Errol Spence Jr. and a surprise move by the WBO, which may signal what is coming next. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about the 147-pound division. Still stuck on this division until we get this fight this weekend between Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson. One of the best fights coming up this year. But before I get into that, we are going to talk about a move that the WBO made and whispers out that are out there that we may just be getting a tune-up fight out of Terence Crawford before he fights Errol Spence Jr. But before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are not a subscriber to the channel, please accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a subscriber and a supporter, thank you so much for your continuing to support. It really does mean a lot. Make sure you check us out with the videos we do daily and also the live streams that we do Monday through pretty much 7 days a week lately at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern time on the channel. All right, so let's get into this, man. There were rumors before the Errol Spence Jr. fight and with Yordenis Ugas that Terence Crawford was in negotiations or in talks with the PBC to do a two-fight deal, one of which could be a fight with Keith Thurman, and the other fight would be to end the year with Errol Spence Jr. Now it looks like, obviously, Errol Spence Jr. says that's the fight that he wants next. That's what he's looking forward to doing next. However, it looks like things could be lining up to where it may actually be Terence Crawford versus Keith Thurman. Besides the conversations that took place beforehand, which I think everybody should keep in mind, because there's still an issue with the marketability of Keith Thurman and of Terence Crawford and the thought process on the PBC that you may need to have more than one fight to set up the Errol Spence Jr. fight. However, now that the WBO has made a really funny move, which is without Keith Thurman having had a fight in several months, right? Now, when was the fight? I think he fought Mario Barrios back in February, right? So it's all of March, all of April. All of a sudden, at the end of April, or for the rankings for April, not for March, the WBO has moved Keith Thurman into their rankings at number 4, which means since he is a top 5 welterweight in that division, Terence Crawford is now able to fight him or pick him in a voluntary fight. So if you look at what the rumors were with the PBC coming out of a lot of different places, actually, about a 2-fight deal with Terence Crawford and the PBC and them wanting him to fight Keith Thurman. This is right in along with that taking place. So, my thought was when Errol Spence Jr. was said, I want to get this fight on with Terence Crawford next. I'm believing obviously that Errol Spence Jr. wants that fight, but that doesn't really change anything from what Errol Spence Jr. has said and been saying for the last 5 years. He said that he was going to clean up his side of the street, and then after that, he was going to go knock on the door of Terence Crawford. However, with knocking on the door of Terence Crawford and him wanting that fight does not necessarily mean that the PBC or the powers that be around them are going to make that fight when they want him, when he wants it. Please remember that when Errol Spence Jr. had just the IBF belt, he went to the fight with Sean Porter, got into the ring to call Sean Porter out in the ring and said that he wanted to fight him. Sean Porter said, yeah, we can do it. But then after the fight, Sean Porter says, hey, man, if this fight between Errol Spence and myself doesn't happen next, do not blame me. And what winds up happening? It winds up being that Errol Spence Jr. takes a pay-per-view fight against Mikey Garcia. Sean Porter takes the fight. I do believe the fight that he had was with Yordenis Ugas, and it's in his first title defense. And then after that fight, that's when they made the fight between Sean Porter and Errol Spence Jr. So just the simple fact that Errol Spence Jr. wants that fight next with Terence Crawford does not guarantee that is going to actually take place. And I'm telling you, from what I've seen, the people popping magically up in the rankings all of a sudden is a sign that there is some stuff going on behind the scenes where people are trying to set in motion for there to be a fight. Now, also, I do believe that Keith Thurman himself had made mention of fighting Terence Crawford. He originally said that he would need like 6 months to do it, and that was before he had the Mario Barrios fight. But then, Keith Thurman is looking to get a title shot. And I'm telling you, man, look, dude, there's a lot of stuff about boxing that we think, we know what's going to happen, and almost never is it a straightforward line to what we want to get. Now, for as far as Showtime goes, you listen to the tone that the president of Showtime had, Steven Espinoza. Steven Espinoza, when talking about the Errol Spence Terence Crawford fight, he said, I do believe that there's a better chance of making that now than there was in the past, right? But he did say that he thought if they were going to do it, hey man, everybody knows it. There's really no need to build to it. But he was still very cautiously, at the best, what you could interpret what he said as being cautiously optimistic that fight could take place. Now, as far as like what the money would be in the Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford fight, there has been a wide number of numbers that have been given out on the pay-per-views for Errol Spence Jr. Sources, I had heard people say 500,000. You have Lance Pugmire, who, in my opinion, very predictably said 250,000. But paying respect to any numbers that are coming out about it, because honestly, you never get those verified or from the actual network. But regardless, there is not a clear message that the fight is done so well that they will be able to pay Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford the type of money that they want. So I am not 100% convinced that whatever opposition there was to Errol Spence Jr. fighting Terence Crawford for the undisputed title next, has gone away. But the fight with Keith Thurman makes sense, because that is an opportunity to get Keith Thurman a championship fight. It's a chance where it's kind of like the same scenario where Bob Arum signed Devin Haney and said, we get Devin Haney the fight, but we need to have you pretty much on a 3-fight deal in order to make that happen. Same thing he did with Jeff Horn. That seems to me to be something where, the PBC may be more amenable to do that if they feel like they have options in order to ensure that they make more money. Now, the truth of the matter is that Keith Thurman for sure is going to be on his last fight with Mario Barrios, that was a pay-per-view. The next fight, I would pretty much believe that is going to be a pay-per-view as well. And a Terence Crawford Keith Thurman fight would be an excellent pay-per-view, and it would also give Terence Crawford a chance to fight, within a reasonable amount of time before he actually gets back in there with Errol Spence, because I do believe that he would have been, if this fight takes place in October, that would be a year layoff for Terence Crawford. And I'm not sure 100% if he would want to do that and get right in there with Errol looking the way he did in that last fight without himself having a tune-up. So, what I'm expecting is an interim fight for Terence Crawford before the Errol Spence Jr. fight. There's talks about the fights taking place, that fight taking place in September. I don't see it happening in September between Errol and Terence for obvious reasons. The Canelo Alvarez thing just being the really, really big one. But we'll see. And I'm telling you, that's a funny move by the WBO to put that man at the number 4 position, because that sets him up for a fight with the champion. He doesn't have to worry about a mandatory there, because the mandatory isn't, because they had a mandatory in October. However, if he doesn't fight within October, I think he has up until October to fight Oh, after October will be the next time a mandatory is called. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.